Hello and welcome to The Actor and the Engineer. My name is Paul James. I am the actor.
And my name is Josh Neff. I'm the broadcast engineer.
All right, here we go, Josh. Are you going to say it 3 times?
No, we don't even need to say it once. You know?
Well, we need to say it twice because it's the name of the movie.
I mean, really, if you've downloaded the podcast or looked at the title, then you know what it is. So, are you that superstitious? Are you superstitious at all?
That's so interesting that you're asking me that, because on my way to work today, I was thinking about, am I superstitious? And I started to think about things that might be considered superstitious. And you and I talked at some point off podcast about how whatever drink I buy at the beginning of rehearsal, I buy every day for the rest of rehearsal.
Yeah.
And the last play I did, I bought a ginger ale because that was the only option. And I think they had like Diet Coke. I don't like that kind of diet stuff. You know, I'm a Coke Zero guy, but I really don't like any of that kind of stuff. And I guess I should have bought a water.
Start with a water.
Yeah,
You know, work up from there.
And then I was like, okay, I cannot drink a ginger ale every day. I mean, I could, but I'm choosing not to. So I was like, okay, once a week, as long as I go to the machine and get something, and then got water every day. So superstitious, no. But my favorite number is 13. A lot of my codes and stuff include that number in it.
Don't say that on the internet.
Well, I mean, can't pick out the rest of it.
Jeez. Okay.
They don't know the rest of it. It's not like I told them it had a 2 and a 4 in it. No, I'm kidding. It doesn't. And none of them have 13 in it. I just wanted to say 13 as a number. Anyway, 13 is my favorite number. It's been my soccer number, so forth. So superstitious, not necessarily, but habitual repeating of patterns, almost OCD-ish. Yes, on some level, yes. How about you?
Pattern oriented. I would say I may be a little bit pattern oriented, but I don't think that I don't have any superstitions as far as although when I played baseball, I didn't ever, when I was running out onto the field, I never stepped onto the line, that was more of like, I think for me, that's more of like a,
superstition?
No, a tradition as opposed to a superstition. I think those are different things. I really like traditions. I really think it's cool.
Is it a tradition in baseball not to walk on the line? Oh, okay. Yeah,
Well, it's a passed down superstition that I think becomes a tradition over generations of people passing it down.
Wow, because that is the biggest rationalization I've ever heard for superstition in my life. Don't say that on the internet.
Okay, so Beetlejuice. So yes. We're going to talk about that movie. I didn't know that I wanted to ever see a Beetlejuice sequel, but when they announced it, I was like, okay, a lot of people are coming back. Tim Burton's coming back, but that doesn't necessarily, I haven't really gotten into his last few movies. In fact, I don't even know if I've seen his last few movies. I didn't see Dumbo, and I haven't seen whatever. I don't think I saw whatever his last one was. So it started to kind of slide for me really in the last 10 years, I think, of what he's done. But it sounds like he worked on Wednesday and directed the first few episodes of that, which also stars Jenna Ortega as Wednesday. So he getting back into that, I guess he kind of that rekindled the fire for Beetlejuice for him. So, I mean, they were able to make it happen, and they got all the big people back and then added more characters. So were you chomping at the bit to have a movie like this?
Yeah, I thought you were going to start with, is there a necessity for another Beetlejuice movie? Here's what I'll say about it, because I thought about it once.
They're going to make it. I mean,
sure.
It's back to what we've talked about, the last few episodes, save Strange Darling, but they're going to make these things. So I'm already past that.
Well, I have 2 thoughts. The first thought is, what are they going to do in 40 years? What are they going to remake? The remake of the remake of the remake?
Oh, good question.
What are they going to do? So they need to develop new content just to repeat it. What are they going to do? Are they going to be playing the 80s and 90s music through movies 200 years from now? What are they going to play 100 years from now in movies? All of that music now is only 60 years old or less than, and they're using it everywhere.
Well, but fashion does that though. Every 20 years. I mean, baggy pants are back now somehow. But
but they had to have had baggy pants to begin with.
that's true.
So 100 years from now, they had baggy pants. Now they're repeating it in fashion, and they find a new and original way to make those baggy pants work. They just use the same song or a cover version of the same song
Hmm.
or a certain artist that you wouldn't expect to do a cover version of that song for the movie. So what are they going to do? So that's the original content is an issue per se. So what are they going to do? Who knows? Second, I did not think about Beetlejuice being remade, but when they did, I was like, okay, I get it. Then I saw it, and I wish it had been a franchise. I wish we had a Beetlejuice movie every 5 years.
Hmm.
And then I would be way more connected than I was when I saw this movie.
Okay.
And you didn't want me to tell any of my code numbers on the internet, but I'm going to reveal some more truths on the internet. I am the truth of the matter is I'm coming out of the closet with my opinion about Beetlejuice, the original. I was not overwhelmed by it when it first came out. I was not
Hmm.
taken back by it. Now I'm a little bit older than you are. And so things hit me at different times than most people. Like Ghostbusters. I was just a tad bit too old for that. Not that I didn't get it and understand it and loved it, but I didn't want to dress as them for Halloween because I was past that age and all that other stuff. Same with Beetlejuice. It's not a movie that I thought was a masterpiece when it came out. Over time, it has called to me to watch it again, and I've seen it a handful of times since, and I enjoy it. And it's become part of our world and the lexicon of our movie going experiences. And it's a Broadway show, and there's other things that have happened around it, and so forth and so on. And so the truth of the matter is, I never thought the first one was that great. And then I had problems with a lot of Tim Burton movies because his storytelling to me, it's not A, B, or C. It's not A, C, B. It doesn't have a thumbprint like his style does. His production value does. His costumes do. His actors do. He to me is not. You can't tell a Tim Burton because of the style of directing. You could tell a Tim Burton movie because of the way it looks and his choices that he makes as a director, meaning production, all of the above. And so I love the production value of Beetlejuice, the original. I actually think in retrospect, because I just watched it again before seeing this new one, it is one of the better told stories of his. But to me, Edward Scissorhands is the epitome of the best storytelling process. But I have seen all of his recent stuff with the exception of Dumbo, and I like it. I don't have a problem with any of it. I go into it expecting to be wowed visually and acting wise. I'm usually wowed just because he has some of the top-notch people in the business. But story-wise, it's always iffy for me with him. And I think the new one fits into that category as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's we'll get into story here in a second, but I think that as far as I'm concerned, I also rewatched Beetlejuice, and it's interesting that you brought up Beetlejuice and Ghostbusters. For me, and I think for a lot of people my age, I was around. So when Beetlejuice came out, I was around 10 years old, and I didn't necessarily like go out to the theater to see Beetlejuice, but I did see the Beetlejuice animated show that played like the year after Beetlejuice came out, and I saw the real Ghostbusters, which is the animated version of Ghostbusters. I mean, both of those, like, and I had like a Ghostbusters toy. I don't think I had any of the Beetlejuice toys, but I definitely had like a Ghostbusters Egon Spengler or whatever. But like those are the identifying. And I also did watch Ghostbusters a lot more when I was a kid because we taped it off of HBO, but I don't think we taped Beetlejuice off of HBO. But yeah, I didn't have as much of a connection with the movie itself, but I definitely had a connection with the character and with the characters associated with the animated show. So that was what I remembered. And then after watching Beetlejuice again, there are certain things that I remembered. Obviously, all of the Harry Belafonte music scenes associated with that first movie. And then also the fact that like I didn't realize that Beetlejuice, the character, wasn't in the movie very much, but
Yeah.
that's all that everybody talks about now. It was
Yeah.
only in it for 17 minutes and da 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 da. Hannibal Lecter, all that, like I get it.
No, I remember thinking to myself, why is the movie named Beetlejuice? He's barely in this movie. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I couldn't, and it's the same for the new one too. I mean, he's in
Well,
it more, but
he's in it more.
not much more.
I think the reason why is because in this movie they added way more characters. Too many characters.
That's where I stop.
And not enough none of the new characters really have the ability for their character to be fleshed out. They are added, and not, I mean, I guess the Justin Theroux character is a fully formed character, but spoilers for Beetlejuice, he's kind of the bad guy. So, or one of the bad guys. Obviously Beetlejuice can be considered a bad guy too, but he lives in that weird middle realm of interesting and just unsavory. But like Monica Bellucci looks beautiful. She does not age
Nope.
somehow, and she does exactly what she needs to do in this film with the amount of screen time she has. But it's, I mean, I think that the Soul Train people have more screen time than Monica Bellucci does. So it's not good. Um, Totally unnecessary character. And Willem Dafoe's character was fun. And every time he was on screen, I was like, yeah, man, you get it. This is cool. But wasn't necessary at all. And those characters could completely go away. But I guess it's cool that they got them to be in the movie. But at that point, like, what are we doing? Like, what's the point? So that was kind of my first initial reaction to the film, is just like, it's bloated, and it doesn't need to be bloated. You could have like a svelte hour-and-a-half movie and
With
get
the
out
boyfriend.
and
With the boyfriend storyline, everybody
yeah.
could be involved in getting her out. There's not, and them trying to get in, which should have been way more explored, because
You mean get into
the
afterlife?
like,
Yeah.
because that's not. I will say this. I wanted to start with this next thought, that the tropes that they steal from the original film, which is not stolen because it's his stuff,
Yeah.
like the Harry Belafonte song, and how they transpose that to the new film. Well done.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, the funeral with
yeah,
acapella
that's
Deo.
hilarious.
Oh,
That's
so good.
hilarious. And I was trying to explain to my nephew who went with me that song is literally about a cake melting in
Wait.
MacArthur Park.
You're talking about a different song.
What am I talking about?
I was talking about Deo at the funeral.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about no. I'm talking about the big make everybody sing a song they don't want to sing. Yeah.
I hated that scene.
Well, I didn't hate it because I thought they had to do it. They felt like they had to do. I've never seen you so animated before. I hated it. I could see why you didn't like it. I get that.
No. Okay. I will say this. You can go on, but I will say this very quickly. I thought that scene was over right before they started to sing. That's bad. There was a definite lull in that scene.
Oh, yeah.
Right before they start to sing. And it seemed like, they're getting ready to cut away. Or, okay, we're moving on to something else. Or the worm's going to crash into the wall. Whatever. But no, we had to wait 2.5 minutes.
Yeah,
for people to sing, and then the worm crashed in the wall.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. The timing is off. The structure of how they get into it is off, and it doesn't work as well as the first song in the first movie, obviously, because you don't know what's going on in the first movie. You don't know, but that's such a great song, so it's kind of hard to figure out the comparison. Like, what do you choose to use? Like, what do you do? The Bee Gees, Barry Manilow, what do you use? And so MacArthur Park, a song about a cake melting in the rain, the green icing flowing down. And I was telling my nephew about that, and he was like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, that was a super big hit back in and he goes, why? And I go, disco.
Exactly.
And I was like, we should listen to it. And I was a little taken back that they chose to use a super famous female singer song and then change it to a male singer's voice. But they did that because of Harry Belafonte. They couldn't, like, people, I don't know if they would have gotten the they wouldn't have been fulfilled with it. So they might have chosen a different song, in my opinion. So yeah, I think the tropes that they stole or they reused for the second movie are well done. I agree with everything you said up to this point. It's bloated. Here's why it's not necessarily bloated. It's just they're unnecessary characters. Why do we need to know Beetlejuice's backstory? I will forever be on the committee of stop trying to give everybody's backstory. We don't need Michael Myers' backstory. We don't need it. He was evil. He put on a mask. He killed people. He escaped. That's what we need to know. Beetlejuice is a bioexorcist demon. That's what we need to know. He needs to be used and called when they need him in the worst situation. That's what we know. That's what we need to know. And the thing about Willem Dafoe, both those two actors, Monica, what's her name again?
Bellucci.
Bellucci, yeah. I want to say Bellucci for some reason. I want to put extra vowels and consonants
Like
in it.
Bela Lugosi?
Yeah.
Monica Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, that's me. I have to be looking at certain people's names in order to pronounce them. And then I still get them wrong. But I love the fact that he has a thing for stitched together women. Because this is, I think, the third character, because Sally from Nightmare and then the Corpse Bride and now Dolores. Yeah.
Okay,
I like the stitching together. I like that scene. I love the cameo.
I like that scene.
Yeah. I love the cameo by Danny DeVito. Get him in there. Put him in every Tim Burton movie. I got it. I like it. I'm good with it.
Yeah, he's the penguin.
He's the penguin. That's a hard one for me. We can discuss that later.
That's a great performance.
It's sure. It's just not anywhere near anything I've ever known. So it's taken a while for me to accept after 25 years or however long it's been that's the way that goes. The point to all that is Willem Dafoe, unnecessary, but they had that cool thing on the side of his head and they explained why, but he kept being shot from this side. And I was like, what? Why are they not always shooting from this side? I mean, I get it. You can't overuse something. You can't make that the shtick or make that the thing. But if he's going to be this over the top actor / private eye / cop person, which is ridiculous in concept alone. And it's,
I love the girl that kept bringing him coffee. That was awesome.
Yeah.
It's
cool.
Cool.
Another movie though. It's like a
You're right.
Star Wars story, Beetlejuice story. This is Beetlejuice story, Beetlejuice. And, we can have a story about the afterlife and all these characters in it. And now what's happened with Catherine O'Hara's character, now we could have a whole nother series with her. It could be a whole mini series of different things that happen in the Beetlejuice world. He packs it all in, but the problem with it for me, or the issue with it for me, is they don't connect things. Even if it's a major minor character like Dolores or whatever Willem Dafoe's character's name is.
Wolf Jackson.
Right. It's ridiculous. I mean, in the best kind of way.
Sure.
There's a way to connect them all in with a little bit of a shtick, a little bit of a ba-dum-tsh, or a little bit of some way of fixing something that's not working in the plot. You throw them in. But he tried to give them all separate things, and none of them connect together. None of them. There is no reason why Willem Dafoe has to be in the end of the movie. None. So she gets out, stitched up lady, Dolores.
Mm-hmm.
She's looking for Beetlejuice. They're looking for so-and-so. The girl is trying to get out. The mother's trying to get in. The grandmother dies. She gets in. And then we need somebody who's going to find Dolores. Well, it's too much. Visually stunning. Just delicious to look at, and just stylistically great, and more Halloween costumes to come. And I'm all about that. I love that. So did we need it per se? Yeah, sure. We need another Beetlejuice movie. Fine. I'm okay with that. But then if you're going to bring them all back and you're going to do all of this stuff, then why does it all have to be contained in one part? Make it 2 parts, or maybe not part 2, but a second film and a third film. Make it something to where you can have fun with these characters. And I had this strange reaction, and I'm sort of changing the subject a little bit, but I had this strange reaction to how they dealt with things they had to deal with, like Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis not being in the film, the father not being in the film.
But it's the one line. It's what
I
you talk
know
about all the time. It's the one line. It didn't land for you.
it's
They found a
not.
loophole.
It's just not clever enough. I'm fine with one line. I'm fine with a throwaway line that explains 30 years of history and the 120 years of them being lost in the house or can't get out of the house. Or I think it's 125 years. They can't get out. I'm fine with it being ba 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 and then going on. But you needed something else. You needed to, what loophole? So you answered a question with a bigger question. So what loophole? Like, it needed something else. It needed to be attached to, they're running down and they see the loophole office. Hey, that's where the Maitlands went.
Yeah.
Something. Because I felt, I didn't miss those two characters, but they are more of the leads in the first film than Beetlejuice is. They are the leads. It's their story. And then they attach Beetlejuice and Lydia, who's 15, by the way, in the first film.
And he's really gunning for her.
And and they do call him out on that in the first film. Gina Davis calls him a pervert, that kind of stuff. But times have changed, so they probably shouldn't or couldn't do it now. And then they have a picture of her from that age, from the first film, on his desk. Ugh, creepy. Just creepy. And luckily, Winona Ryder looks great. She looks just the same. So you don't, unless you know specifically that picture is from the original film, it might just flash by you. It might not, you might not register that, but that is definitely her as it's 15, not 17 going on almost 18, 15. That's Lolita territory. And it's just, So I don't.
You're like, jeez.
Well, because I just feel like, is it me? The reason why I came out of the closet about not loving Beetlejuice when I first saw it and not thinking it was a masterpiece like everybody else thought. And I think that came later, to be honest with you. I think
so.
Many people had problems with that film when it first came out and they were like, what is this? Which I kind of liked. But if you're going to continue, then you need to have a really good reason to bring us back into the world and really good reasons for us to stay in the world for 2 hours. And there's just nothing. You have this great joke about the realtor, who is the little girl from the first movie. Where she rolls up the window as Winona Ryder's walking towards her. It's great. It's a great little scene. And she says, I'm part of the brownie troop or whatever. I'm the leader. And they were decided to go as fruit salad. That's hilarious, right? And then when you open the door and they're dressed in their fruit salads, you barely get a chance to see their fruit salad dress costumes. It would have been funnier if they were all walking. Well, I'm not going to say I think it would be funnier if Tim Burton did this, but I just imagine the little fruit salad walking up to the door and then, nope, banana's got to be over by the something really quick, because it's a funny little gag and it's washed over for the men with the shrunken heads in the office running through.
Bob and
which is funny. His name's Bob, but
it's all practical effects too, which I really love. Like, it's real guys in the suits, real animatronics. We're just talking about Alien Romulus. I mean, like, they're getting back into the, like, how do you differentiate yourself as a Hollywood movie? You spend the money on the impractical things to make things look more realistic,
right?
And you end up saving money. And you do, because you're not waiting on 15 post effects VFX houses to deliver 30 seconds of footage, each of them, so that your movie can get done. It's in the can. You know you've got it. And you may need to touch something up here or there, but that's totally different than coming up with a xenomorph creature completely CG, or totally different than coming up with a shrunken head dude running down an actual set, having to composite them into a shot set. And hopefully this will be good for visual effects houses, that they're not going to be given insane deadlines for no money. So hopefully they're kind of fighting back a little bit on that. And so maybe we're going to come to a nice equilibrium of a mixture of practical effects and CG, like we did
It's what
for 15 years, 20
it's what
years.
David Fincher does.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
uses
totally.
he uses CGI to make the effect that he's already got in camera
Yeah.
better.
Or to move a hair on Rosamund Pike's head.
Crazy. I love that. I love it because I got some stuff I need for him to do to me. Like move that, I love that. Oh, your dots are on you because they're CGI? Nope, just flaws. They're going to take them out.
That'll be fine.
And I love it. I love it because that allows an actor who might not necessarily 100% look like a character change into a character with practical makeup and CGI to affect something like eye color or eyebrows or ear whatever shapes, that kind of stuff. And there is a sense when you see practical effects, and I think everything is pretty much practical and added CGI to make it look better, except for the snakes or
Well, I mean, Monica
worms.
Bellucci's leg,
Oh
crawling
yeah,
itself over,
yeah,
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
yeah. Well, are we sure that's not 100%?
I mean,
That's not
it could be a leg, but obviously at some point they're like cutting out the rest of the body, and they're,
right. Sure,
yeah.
absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. But that makes sense.
Yeah.
And because she's real, our brain registers it different. And
Yeah.
like the shrunken head people, because we register that that's a practical effect, or the father eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some of the splattering of blood and some of
Yeah.
the things that are in it are CGI'd, but we know there's somebody in that costume, and for whatever reason that makes us accept it, I think, more. And also, it would be a major shame that you do all this great practical effects in the first film,
Mm-hmm.
or claymation in some points, and
Yep.
then use CGI to fake it in this film. It just would not have felt right. Maybe some other director's world, and 30 years later, an update of a film they did 30 years ago, maybe you could get away with CGI effects. With Tim Burton's very specific style.
But
So
he kind of moved into CGI though, right?
yeah,
Isn't that what
sure.
he's done with his last? I mean, looking at Charlie and the
Dumbo.
Chocolate Factory, and
Ugh.
I mean, all of that stuff, and Dumbo. I mean, we're now into, yeah. Wow, I'm Robert Zemeckis light when it comes to that stuff. But that doesn't. Yeah,
He would hate that you said that, probably.
well, he needed to do this. He needed to lean back into what got him excited about film, stop motion animation, that kind of stuff. I mean, he did Frankenweenie as a short coming right out of school. That's the kind of stuff that got him seen. And then he's able to do Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and then that moves him on to Beetlejuice. So, I mean, and then he was working on Batman before he was pitched Beetlejuice. So this was, yeah, he was.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So
Wait, so did he have Michael Keaton in mind for Batman before
I
Beetlejuice?
don't know if he had Michael Keaton in mind for Batman or not, but I think it was a knock-on effect of, hey, I've worked with this guy before. I know, and I see something in him. But yeah, so I also want to close another loop from earlier. You said that it was interesting that they used a male vocalist for MacArthur Park. That was the original recording. Jimmy
Oh,
Webb wrote
I've heard that.
and sang
Yes.
that song, and then
Yes.
Donna Summer did a
Yeah.
cover of it. But
Yes. Okay.
but they
yes.
used the original Jimmy Webb recording of that. Now, that song for me, I knew nothing about that song until I got the Alapalooza Weird Al Yankovic album, and on it was a song called Jurassic Park. And so Jurassic Park is frightening in the dark. All the dinosaurs are going wild. That is the line from his song. So that's how I know that melody, but I don't really know the song at all, the MacArthur Park song. So,
well, it's funny because the MacArthur Park song is almost a parody in amongst itself. It's
yeah.
almost a Weird Al song by itself. Because
Yeah.
it's a really weird song. Yes, I'm glad that you looked that up, because in the back of my mind when I was saying that, I was like, yeah, something feels wrong about that. It's not necessarily what I said was wrong. It's that nobody knows that version per se. They know the Donna Summers version because it
Yeah.
was a huge hit. But
Mhm.
it's like Springsteen's Blinded by the Light. Nobody knows that's his song because of the
Man for Man.
yes, and that's a huge cover hit
Yep.
that most people don't know who wrote
I
that
mean,
song.
Aretha Franklin, Respect.
What is that, a cover?
Yeah, it's an Otis Redding cover.
Of course it is. Of course, that sometimes that just pisses me off that we don't know that. Sometimes it just bites me the wrong way. There's a guy on online who does, and he'll play the original, and then he'll play the cover, and then he'll play the hit.
Yeah.
And sometimes he'll do it with snippets and melodies, and how one like transferred to the next, and how it ended up being this big hit. But Nothing But a Hound Dog is a cover.
Well, it's a blues song. Yeah.
Yeah, by a female, like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. It's like somebody like her.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the thing that they do. That's so spectacular.
So yeah, the original singer of Hound Dog is Big Mama Thornton.
See, I knew it was something. I knew it was something along Ma Rainey's, and I knew they all have that thing that they do with their voice that I'm envious as hell. If I could ever sing, that's how I would want to sing. I cannot, so I'm saving the world. But yeah, it's a good transfer of how they did it in the original film to this new film. It's fun. They get everybody involved, and it's the first time Winona Ryder is in that, because she stands in the back during the original one and is laughing at them having that done. And interestingly enough, or not interesting, at least to me, it's interesting. It's not Beetlejuice who makes them do that.
Yeah.
It's the Maitlands that make them do that to try to scare them away. And they're like, and Lydia comes up, they want you to come down. What's wrong with these people? And then it becomes something else in the film.
Yeah.
So, I mean, here's the thing. I will keep talking about how originally I was not overwhelmed by Beetlejuice. Nothing called to me. I never thought I'd see it again. I've seen it a good handful of times, right? Maybe even more. Just over time, Halloween, whatever it may be. Stylistically, I was all about Tim Burton at one point, so I was watching everything that he was doing, and I was seeing all the patterns, which are not hard to pick up. Black, stripes, twirls. Good, we're done. Maybe some red. And but I have the same feeling about this one. I don't know if I'll ever see it again. There's nothing calling to me about seeing it again. I had a good time watching it. I thought it was going to be way more fun than it was. I thought people were going to laugh out loud, and people were going to be like, oh, yeah, remember that? That some kind of communal experience that made it worth the 2 hours that I spent watching it. And I'm not one of those people who will be like, I need those 2 hours back. I wasted my 2 hours. I hate people like that. Well, I'm not a big fan of people like that. But everybody has their opinion. Look at me trying to be nice to everybody. I don't ever feel like I'm wasting my time seeing a movie, good, bad, or indifferent. I just never do. Something is interesting about it. And there is stuff here to see. I love the mother-grandmother relationship now. I loved how, that's good. See, that to me, that's good writing. When she comes out to the porch, Lydia and what's Catherine?
Delia.
Delia. I keep wanting to say Deidre. Delia is on the porch, and she's looking very much like the anti-grandmother on the porch at this house, done up the way she's done. She's grandmother material, but she doesn't look anything like that. I love that. And then the small little conversation that they have about what's going on with my daughter. Well, you were kind of a pain in my butt when, blah, 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 what happened.
Yeah.
And just the way that emotionally resolves itself is really sweet.
Yeah.
And it's a necessity, because they have to be on the same side at the end of the film.
Yeah.
Although she doesn't have a choice because she's dead now, the grandmother. And, but it was nice. It was sweet. It was touching. It was a really fun way to wrap that up. It was a really touching way to wrap that together and make it about what's happening now.
Yeah.
But name another.
Yeah, I think that the Delia character is the best thing of the movie for me, because The character in the first movie is very one note, and she's just the person to be hated,
Yeah.
period. And that's it. And so she's just a one note character, and she's brash, and she has her own opinions, and she hates the country or whatever. She wants to bring all of her modern art in to this country farmhouse and ruin the country farmhouse aesthetic and have the claw thing in the corner and all that stuff. It's a one note character. In this movie, she's kind of like, she has the complexity of being a 75-year-old influencer and modern artist, performance artist. She's calling out, like, her embodiment of the character is calling out the absurdity of modern art in the social media era. Her trying to wail and record herself and be like, no, 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 that was too much. No, I need to do this. All of that stuff. It's just poking fun at the absurdity of like performance for everyone always thing. And I loved that about her character. But also at the same time, she's holding up a sign to her daughter and saying, like, you really want to be with this guy? Do you not see what he's doing? Talking about the Justin Thoreau character. So that's the wholesome, like, mother, even though she's the, the stepmother, she's still been her direct mother for this whole time, her
Oh,
growing
I'm
up.
sorry. I got to interrupt you. I thought of another thing. Sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt you. But that's another thing that I think is thrown away that I think is a missed opportunity in that same conversation when she says, yeah, but my mom's not dead. Okay. Well, oh, your mom's alive? That's not addressed in the first movie. It's being addressed in this one. What happened? What? You have a relationship? And I know it's not necessary for the narrative to move on, but
Yeah.
you can't just throw that out there
Why even
without.
bring it up?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I don't understand because it's not there's no mention of it in the first film
No.
other than your mother, stepmother. That's all that's talked
Mhm.
about. I'm sorry to get so like over the top energized, but I was trying to remember things that
Mhm.
they kind of just throw out there, and it's fine that they throw them out, but they never connect them to anything. It's
Yeah.
with no purpose. I'm sorry. I broke your train of thought. I apologize.
No, I just there's multiple aspects to the Delia character in this movie, and they all kind of land for me. She's also like really loves her husband, and she is affected by her husband's death, but at the same time, she has this weird drive to like turn it into quote unquote art, or essentially a commodity is what she's doing. But that's because that's what she's done her whole life, and she's been successful at it. So I don't know. It's she is unabashedly herself, and it's a fleshed out character. Whereas like the Justin Thoreau character is like a mustache twirling villain essentially, and Lydia is a complicated character who, you're right, we don't really know. Sometimes we don't know her motivations, and we haven't talked anything at all about her daughter, about Jenna Ortega's character, like just
I just
nothing.
realized that myself.
And she did a great job in the movie playing the disaffected teen, the representative of Lydia in this new movie, and then her getting together with the boy and all of that stuff. I felt like that was a very deft way of dealing with the dead person trying to suck you down into the, trying to get married essentially. It's Lydia and Beetlejuice's relationship just transposed onto these two characters, but in a non-creepy, oogie way. So,
Until it's creepy and oogie.
well, no, I mean it's supposed to be, but
Right.
but
Oh, you mean minus the
minus the,
Lolita
like,
aspect? Yeah.
40-year-old man wanting to
Ugh.
get with the 15-year-old girl. So I don't think Michael Keaton was 40, but still, you know
It's
what I
the
mean.
sounds he makes that makes it creepy for me.
Yeah,
All that stuff he does in the
yeah.
first film.
And
It's like,
yeah,
ooh.
the moss on his face doesn't help
I
either.
love
It's
it.
just
I love it.
like
I love it. I love it. But I will go back to the boyfriend. That should have been the plot of the film. And when she first walks into their house on, is it Halloween that she sees the parents and the father's watching TV? And is that the
yes.
first time Jenna
That's
Ortega,
no. It's when they go
Astrid?
in. It's when they go inside and they go upstairs, and
Yeah. Okay.
that's the
And
day before, I
they're
think. Yeah.
conspicuously turned so you can't see their faces. I was like,
Yes.
they're dead. I
Oh,
was
I
like,
didn't. No, I didn't. I
I
didn't pick
saw it
up
a
on it
mile away because the way the mother was carrying whatever or doing whatever she was doing in the
in the
kitchen,
kitchen.
and they were trying to play it like abusive parents who didn't care about their kid and how he's been sitting there watching TV for 30 years or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
may be. He just drinks beer and sits there. I was like, I.
You're
I
like,
don't know
no,
many people who you walk into their house and you walk behind them and they don't turn around and at least look
that's
just out
true.
of like, I don't know why we do that. I guess caution or, because people are walking behind you and you need to know
Or
who it
just,
is.
yeah, interest. They're like, huh,
Yeah.
who's that? Okay.
So when the reveal happens, I was like, okay. I mean, it's kind of funny that she's got the beater in her
Yeah.
eye and
No,
it's kind
that's
of
funny.
gross. And, I think it's weird that that's the thing that her son chose to kill her with. It's all, but there was something about when she first, and she hits that tree hard. When she comes flying through that fence on the bike, she hits that tree hard.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she was going to die. I thought she died.
Oh,
And
okay.
something about her not dying made me go, something's
Hmm.
weird about this. I didn't pick that up immediately. But there was like a spidey sense. I was like, something's
Yeah,
going on with this kid.
they don't
What
want
is
their main
this?
character to die. That's the other thing is that in the first Beetlejuice, she's writing a suicide note in
Yeah.
the first Beetlejuice. And now it's like, you do not do that. We
Yeah.
do not, like, that is not a thing you mess with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, because you don't want to put that out into the world at this point. Yeah.
You grow, you understand, and you compromise to what the new things are. And that's a good thing that they are aware of that and didn't do that, because there are obvious reasons why you can't and you shouldn't. But I just thought that their house was interesting. How he decorated for Halloween was interesting. Oh, and then when he said, let's just, whatever he says other than doing, giving
Just
out
hang out
candy.
up here. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, something's not adding up here. And then also the book,
Well, but see that there was a book that was available because the Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin left that house, so maybe all the stuff in the house got sold to.
The boy has it in his room. Oh,
That
you're saying
he has it in his room because he's dead. But I
right?
didn't
I know,
realize.
but you're saying that
I'm saying
that's a coincidence
I
that
was.
the book that.
No, he
Okay.
said he bought it in at
Yeah.
a thrift shop. So I thought
Yeah.
that the thrift shop got like all the books that Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin owned, and then they just put it on the shelf and sold it.
And that's a little bit, they start to play with the rules of the first film a little bit and kind of not deviate, but there's some stuff that you can't do in the first film that you can do in the second film. Like, why can he go to the end of his yard, or why can he be in his treehouse? Which I also thought was weird. I was like, what is this kid this age doing in that little kid's treehouse? Like, it just was weird to me. I was like, something's not right about it. But he can go to the treehouse and be seen by her, and he can go
Yes.
to the end of the street, which he mentions, or into the yard. But when they go out of their house in the original, they're in the sandpit worm land. So what's going on there? I guess maybe it's different. I don't know. It's not important, but the first one is so specific in what it chose to do that, and then this one is so specific in what it chose to redo. Replicate. Yes. They needed a meet cute. So that's how they were going to meet. That's fine. You needed to do something to get him into the picture. So that's fine. I just think that storyline alone could have been fine for 90 minutes, maybe an hour and 45 minutes, and out, they could have all gotten in there somehow. So technical question, anybody can go into the land of the dead? Because when Astrid is going in with the boyfriend, he makes her chant something, giving her the impression in order to get into the land of the dead or the afterlife, that she has to chant this, but it's, he's conning her to chant her life away. So, but as long as the door opens, anybody can go in it and anybody can come out of it.
I think it's because she chanted to go in. Now, how did Lydia get in? That's the question.
And then Shrunkenhead's guys got out.
Yeah, the Shrunkenhead guy's getting out. I mean, I don't know if Beetlejuice has to be, has to have the 3-word thing to get out into the real world, because he obviously got out into the real world in the first one, turned himself into a snake on the railing, and all that stuff. I mean, he was in the real world in the first movie.
Yeah.
So something has to happen to let him out. Now, I don't know about maybe because they broke some sort of a barrier between the afterlife and the real world. Bob and his buddies were able to run out. How did Willem Dafoe get out? There's that we're into. They poked a hole in the space-time continuum, and now everybody
Yeah.
can get through it.
But okay,
Yeah.
I knew you were gonna say something like that, and I can appreciate that. But you establish rules and a certain atmosphere and choices in the first film. You have to continue them in the second film, and if you're going to bend those rules or break those rules, you have to have an explanation in that world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to. Lightspeed did this, and going back in time and seeing yourself, as long as it makes sense for that world. And if I'm in the movie theater watching your film for the first time, wondering that stuff instead of paying attention to what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it's a simple fix. And then at the end of the film, when he goes to try to marry her again in the same red dress, without the veil, by the way, which is what I think makes the first red dress very cool. I do. It's been.
She also has like the 80s bob too.
Which I love everything about that. All of a sudden, this is this and this is this, and then the contract burns up. And I'm like, wait, what? Wait. And I know I'm getting way too deep with the Beetlejuice film, but I think these questions, it's like, okay, I'll give you a prime example of Tim Burton needing to explain himself. In the first Batman film, Batman 89, okay? Why is he a bat? Why the bat? Not because of everything else
Yeah.
but why in that film? And you know who taught me that? A 6-year-old little kid at the supermarket about a year after that movie came out, and all this advertisement, all these magazines, all this other stuff. And we're standing in line, and he goes, hey, to his dad, points at a People magazine or whatever it was with Batman on it, or Michael Keaton or whoever. He was like, why is he a bat? And he's like, oh, to avenge his parents' death. No.
No.
Why a bat?
Mm-hmm.
Why not a tiger? Why not a lion? Why not a whatever? And I was like,
good question.
It's a basic need to know question. Basic need to know. And sometimes Burton has gone back and done things to correct mistakes that people have called him out on. Vicky Vale coming into the Batcave was a big thing. And they had playing cards or collector cards.
Oh yeah,
and I had all of them. And I was at a party.
I had
a friend
some
of mine
too.
Yeah, I love
the
them.
yellow border ones.
Yeah, I still have them.
Dang.
And somebody was flipping through them at this party, and he throws the Vicky Vale and the Batcave card on the table and goes, "That's what's wrong with that movie."
Great.
Why was Vicky Vale in the Batcave? No, it wasn't anything sexist. It wasn't anything to do with her being a woman. It wasn't misogynistic views. It was that simply doesn't happen. Now, it has happened in the comic book, but it's not part of how we know that character works. So what did Tim Burton do? In the second Batman film, they mentioned that. He goes to flick the mansion in the fish tank, and he's like, what, security? What are you talking about, security? I turn around and, hi, Vicky. You let her into the Batcave. So it's kind of a funny joke in the second film, but it's also to rectify that Tim Burton also knows that might not have been the best choice. Like that's not where how this character is. And that's not what Batman would happen in a Batman comic. Yes, these are small little details that, are throwaways to most people. And most people will be like, oh, well, that they just came through. It was Halloween was my explanation when we were trying to figure out how they could cross over.
Only on Halloween.
Yeah. Well, they definitely can cross over from the afterlife because that's Halloween.
Yeah.
That's what Halloween is. Mm-hmm. The veil between the living and the dead is simplified and they can cross. Yeah, that's Halloween, right? So I was like, oh, Halloween. And people were like, my nephew in particular, he's like, I don't know. I don't know. So it's not Halloween the next day. And I go, yeah, you got a point about that. So, Anyway, the long and the short of it is that if you want to have a good time, if you want to watch something visually stunning, if you want to watch these characters that you've grown up with again, it's worth seeing. But it's definitely like if we had a rating scale and it was see it now in the theaters, wait for the second rate theaters or second run theaters, or watch it on streaming, I would wait.
Yeah, you'll be able to watch it on streaming anyway. Now, you may not be able to watch it for a while because I did check and see it is doing very well. It
Oh yeah.
is very close to overtaking A Quiet Place Day One in
Yeah.
gross box office. So like that's pretty cool. And so like I think it's gonna end pretty like it's gonna end in the top 10 movies of the year at least. So I mean, that'll be big. But yeah, it's done better than Alien Romulus, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, The Fall Guy, which I thought was really cool. But
Alien Romulus did well though, right?
it did. I mean,
Yeah.
it's about to hit what is it, $100 million. So
Movie theater going is over with. Remember
yeah,
right
well,
before Oppenheimer?
yeah, well, yes, we have not had I mean, we had Inside Out 2 and Deadpool, but those.
Oh, there you go. There's Deadpool too.
But there's a huge gulf between those and then the next few. Like Dune Part 2 only made like 282 million.
Only.
Yeah, domestic. I'm not talking about the domestic and international. I think it did well internationally too. I think that there's gonna be some sort of a sweet spot where they just know that you're not going to be able to bank on a $500 million domestic movie anymore. You're just not going to. It's not going to happen.
That's
So
good in my
it'll
opinion.
be an anomaly if it happens and a surprise as opposed to just standard. Now, maybe there'd be some people that, Christopher Nolan maybe will be able to do that. James Cameron maybe will be able to do that.
And then we got the new Joker movie coming out. So
that's got really bad reviews, but
so did the first one.
Well, okay. Yeah.
It did. It was as hated as it was loved, and that's $1 billion franchise.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, they're definitely going to make it, keep making them if they stay successful. So
I think Tim Burton should do a Beetlejuice story 3 times a year on HBO,
and that was the
hour-long show.
And
or 2 hours.
Yeah, why don't they have Beetlejuice without Lydia, Dietz, and Delia?
Right.
And like that would have been refreshing. It would have been cheaper too. My guess is that it would have been cheaper to not have to bring back Winona Ryder and to wrangle up all the people.
Yeah, because it's not like you go into that contract negotiation going, I mean, you can't get
get somebody else. Yeah, sure. Go get somebody else.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't have minded but for this one, I think you needed them. I think you needed to now
bridge.
Now they can be minor characters in other people's stories. They can be just at the tip of the story and be careful, whatever, and warn the people or whatever. I mean, Halloween has done it for 30 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Halloween 2052. What is it now that Halloween is at? I don't know. 24, 25.
Ghostbusters has done the same thing. You just dip in a little Bill Murray, a little Dan Aykroyd, a little Ernie Hudson, and just kind of poke them in there a little bit and they're good.
Yeah.
And you just move on.
Yeah.
So,
and that's for people like us who are taking our kids to these movies now. And it's for us to be connected to the film. It doesn't make any sense unless people know the lineage, whatever you want to call it, the history of these films.
Yeah.
And so I think that this movie is fine. I know that sounds like I'm being like trying to find something nice to say about it. I don't want to disrespect Tim Burton. I think he is a visual genius. And I think that some of his movies that have not done very well, I've liked. I liked Big Eyes. I liked Mrs. Peregrine's School of the
Peregrines.
Peregrine. Yeah. I liked that movie. I thought it was good. As a matter of fact, one of the books I just read reminded me of that movie, which I think is based on a book too. I liked the in-between stuff. I liked Big Fish. It's bloated. It's not well told. Its narrative is weird, but I liked a lot of that. I liked his Planet of the Apes. I liked what he chose to do with that storyline. I have visually, I like a lot of his stuff. And I also think that all this stuff that we've celebrated, we have just forgotten in the world of his imagination that these films are just not as told as well as I think they could be. Like Nightmare Before Christmas is, I mean, it's grown on me, but at first I was like, this is not working for me.
I've never really like locked into that movie. So
that's my point though.
Yeah. I don't have, I can't really say anything bad about it, but I can't, there's nothing that makes me want to seek it out to watch it again.
Well, everybody, and this is kind of off topic in a way, everybody talks about Nightmare. Is it a Halloween film or is it a Christmas movie?
Yeah.
And I just now, like a month ago, discovered what it is for me. It's an after Thanksgiving movie that, because I don't want to let go of Halloween and I'm not that ready for Christmas just yet. And it's the bridge in between. And it's really visually stunning. Yeah. Some of the Halloween-esque things in that film are really interesting looking. And then his interpretation of how Christmas looks in his mind are really interesting. But he only produced that film. He didn't have anything. He didn't direct it. That kind
Selick?
Yeah.
Henry Selick, I think.
Yeah. It's a poor guy who everybody doesn't know his name. Because
he did Coraline and
which I like very much.
Coraline was good. Yeah.
Yeah, very much. So I think Tim Burton should keep making movies, and I think Tim Burton should do what he does, and I wish him luck. I'm fascinated by the thought of, will I ever have an urge to see Beetlejuice again?
Yeah.
And that's to be answered later on, I guess.
There you go. All right. Sounds good. You can check us out on the web at actorandengineer.com. You can go to facebook.com/actorandengineer. We're on YouTube. Just search for the Actor and the Engineer podcast. I'll see you next time.